Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It's Eric Coffin. I'm here today with Colin Padget, CEO of Founders Metals. Obviously, anybody who's familiar with HR Advisories is, I assume, familiar with Founders Metals by now. It's certainly a company I've talked about enough times over the years. Colin likes to do the January MIF, and it's nice to have them there every year to see what's happened with this developing story. Um, uh, Once we get into this, you'll see a slide come up, and the first slide is going to focus on the additions to the main project that has been made in the last. Oh, well, it was announced recently. The additions to the Antino land package. It's getting to be extremely large. Can you give us some background on this, Colin? This is something that you guys have always been working on for a while. I'm sure it wasn't like an instantaneous concession grant. And can you walk us through the logic here and what you guys have actually added?
Yeah, for sure. So, it has not been instantaneous. I think it's been something since pretty early on. We known we wanted to add ground, and we were looking at the stuff that was the most obvious, and that's the immediate west of Upper Antino, and still a little bit of consolidating to do with some stuff immediately north. But then in this most recent ad, it's been largely to the south and southwest. I I mean the logic is pretty straightforward. We understand from our drilling and the work we've done and the historic work and in the larger area that it's a very prospective belt. We're in the kind of the heart of the Guiana Shield greenstone, and Central Guiana Shear Zone comes right through the southern part, or now right through the middle, really, of the larger property, and that's really driving the broad scale gold mineralization that we see throughout, and being able to put together this scale of land package, it sets us apart from pretty much everyone else in the Guiana Shield. It's the largest single collective land package, covering greenstone, very prospective gold geology. Um, Basically, the November we added 37,000 hectares to the original 20,000, and then most recently we've added an additional 47,000 hectares.
Well,
So
I noticed that, a fair sized chunk of it, not surprising, is it's contiguous. Essentially, I guess, gets folded in to the option agreement that you've had all along for Antino, but also some of what you added is actually 100% right out of the gate. But is there a reason for that difference?
I think honestly, I think it's just was being a bit strategic in the timing of things, and we want to have some things that are 100%. It's, if we can have it separate, then that's great. And if it's part of the option agreement, that's fine as well. And come into the 70/30. But for shareholders, I think the best value was us taking that 10,000 hectares that's furthest to the south and bringing it into the fold as 100% founders. It's also part of a 10-year exploitation license on that concession. So it's permitted for work, mining, and all the rest, kind of right out of the gate. So that's an important aspect too.
And viewers should note on the slide, on the bottom of this slide, if anyone's concerned about or wondering about news flow, there's a sentence there in the bottom: 70,000 meters planned for 2026. Focus on target expansions and new targets. Are there any targets you'd like to kind of focus on in particular? Uh, ones that you think shareholders should really be paying attention to. I mean, is there anything existing, or for that matter, anything, and any new target that's now available to you? What do you think the timeline is to sort of be able to unfold what new targets are available in this added ground?
Yeah. So I mean, on the new ground, there's a ton of new targets for us to get to, and but there's two or three that really stand out from the historic work, and now we've expanded our airborne geophysics program to cover the entirety of the consolidated land package. So it's very quickly giving us some additional new information on these things. And the biggest ones to point out are in the furthest north of the new package. There's a couple of areas that we highlight on that figure, and one is a 5 kilometer long historic gold anomaly from auger sampling work that was done by Canark, and that was never drilled. And that's to date, including everything else on Antino and all the stuff we've looked at so far. That's the biggest single auger anomaly from historic work.
This-
And yeah, there's some work to be done there, and we're really happy with the timeline. Like, we can get up there in March and start drilling right away. We've got guys on the ground right now doing the mapping, the prospecting, the geology work, doing some auger work a bit to the west of it as well to look at the scale of that.
is,
But we
is
can
there any
get
road
there.
system up there?
Yeah, there's roads that connect pretty much everything in the area. When you actually start looking at where you can drive with an ATV or an excavator, you can get pretty much anywhere you want to. So road access up to that stuff, and then road access all the way to the very north, and that's probably the next most exciting thing from the new ground, because it's we've got them on that map as 4, 5 squares. They're grab samples, but very high grade, but each one of those is actually a separate shear zone with a northwest orientation to it, over what is 3.5 kilometers there. That the scale of this map doesn't do that target justice, because there's quite a few different things to get drills to and test, and they all have that same high grade look or high grade shear signature to them,
Right.
similar to the early Froyo days stuff.
Okay. And when we were talking briefly before we hit the record button, and you commented that Lower Antino, which is a target / zone that should be familiar to shareholders, but to those who don't know the founder's story that well, I mean, that's the set of highlights you want to spend a couple of minutes walking viewers through that target.
Yeah, absolutely. So we put out some recent news on that. Another 90 meters of a gram from some recent drilling there. We've now drilled. We've put out 42, 43 holes. I think we're on 48 holes drilled at Lower Antino, and we're going to keep working on it. It's a distinct style of mineralization from Upper Antino. Upper Antino is the shear zone hosted, typically much higher grade,
Right.
whereas this is the joke is Aussie high grade.
Right.
But we see that kind of around a gram number.
Right.
And even where we're not in that sort of material, you're not averaging with zeros. You get really broad intervals of 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 type things. So it represents an opportunity to build something into quite a lot of ounces from surface, very low strip, and add that to the kind of the total economic scenario
Right.
for Upper Antino or Antino as a whole.
And then I noticed there was a bit of a tease in the in the last release about potential early stage production. Is that alluvial that you're talking about?
I think alluvial in Suriname is a very loose
Yeah.
term, and
Yeah.
not in the geologic sense.
Yeah.
I think we're evaluating right now a couple of things. I mean, we're looking at the opportunity from some of the high grade tailings and seeing if there's something we can move forward there.
Right.
But then specifically thinking about that new concession to the south, and there's opportunity, I think, for some primary saprolite or alluvial, as it's referred to,
Yeah.
down there as well. Where we're had some images in that press release with gold and from some panning and all of that. So there's some things that there's potential to mobilize really quickly on, and I think some smaller scale production, just kind of going through the motions, would be a great value to the company.
Right. Now, how many rigs you guys are running right now?
We're operating 3. We're kind of ramping up to the 4 that we've been running consistently over the last 12, 18 months. Where we have plans, I think, as we move into likely more resource style drilling, towards kind of H2 to be moving out to more rigs later this year.
Okay.
So that even that 70,000 meter target, I think, could change that right now based on our current plan and exploration targets. That's really the number we get to, but I'd say stay tuned for that to maybe grow a little bit.
Okay. And for those who are concerned about it, and I wouldn't be one of those people, um, how are things looking right now in terms of the treasury?
And we're that's why I can say that about changing the number of drill meters. Fully funded for anything that we plan to do. We've over $50 million in cash. It's largely came from the most recent
Right.
single check financing from Goldfields there in November.
Right. Right. Okay. Um, okay. Well, I think this is a good intro. I mean, obviously, I'm a fan. I mean, I've owned it and followed it pretty much from day one when you guys reconstituted the company and brought Antino in. Uh, it's been a great story. I mean, it's in that phase that you see even with quite successful developers. They'll go through these phases where they'll flatten out a bit, and I think Founders is in that phase now. But anybody that's followed successful deals like Great Bear, I mean, they all have these periods where they kind of go sideways, even though things are going well, and then you just one day you just sort of get to the point where the guys that are flipping stock run out of it, and then the next thing you know, you're in an uptrend again. And
Yeah.
I think we're sort of in that period, and probably hopefully coming to the end of it right now with Founders. So, if you're unfamiliar with the story, now is actually a very good time to get on top of it and be prepared and be ready for this thing to move as they continue adding value. I'm not somebody who's a big fan of doing resource numbers earlier than you really have to. I mean, I assume you guys are thinking of that's going to be until at least the end of this year's programs. I assume before you guys bother trying to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. Like, since Chris joined, and people always ask me the resource question. I mean, we're not allergic to them, but it's really we're still driving things with exploration. Like a lot of our work, the vast majority of it is all about just growth of things we have or testing brand new things. So we want to push value that way.
Yeah, I mean, I followed Great Bear from day one. I'm quite familiar and friendly with Chris, and um, almost as a joke, I asked him that question when he joined your board. He just kind of laughed and said, "You already know the answer. I mean, why the hell would we do that in here earlier than we had to?" I said, "Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I figured. I wasn't expecting you to say you're pushing for a resource number to throw around. That's the ultimate buyers of deals like this. They're running their own numbers anyways, and
absolutely.
your number, they may or may not even care. They're going to be running their own internals. So, great story. Founders Metals, FDR, and the venture, FDMIF, I believe, on is it QB or QX?
QX.
QX in the U.S. Um, excellent story, excellent project, fully funded, huge drill program. Will just be, there should be drill result after drill result after drill result. Um, this is one you definitely want to be paying attention to. I mean, in a gold bull market, it's deals like this that end up being the winners. So thanks for coming by, Colin, and I am sure be talking to you again soon.